Dave, I'm going to start with you. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, but this shocked me. What was your reaction to this ruling?
Jason, I thought it was the right ruling because when you are a defendant and you continue to show malice, bad faith by going outside the courtroom and repeating the defamation, and then you show contempt for the process and the jurors by walking out of the courtroom during closing arguments, you're going to get hit with a massive verdict, and that's what happened here. And it's big enough that it really is painful for Trump, but not big enough to be overturned on appeal because the punitive damages are about 3.5 times the compensatory damages, which is within the norm. And that means this verdict is likely to stand. So kudos to Robbie Kaplan and the legal team and to Molly Jong-Fast, who introduced the plaintiff to George Conway, who introduced her to her lawyer, Robbie Kaplan. Great job all around.
Molly, this leads straight to you. Obviously, at a personal level, you know E. Jean Carroll. I'm sure there's a certain amount of satisfaction with it. But I want to sort of go back to her statement. She says, look, this is not just a victory for her. It is a victory for women. It is a victory for anybody who's ever been bullied. Do you think that seeing the former president, the former twice impeached president, get hit with a $83 billion fine, or $83 million fine, do you think that sends a larger message across the country to men like him who abuse their power in this way?
Right. Just like misogyny, when we see misogyny and we see racism, we see it continue. When we see justice like this, we see that continue too. And I would add, look, E. Jean is not Trump's only accuser, right? Mm-hmm. She's just the only one because of this Adult Survivor Act who was able to have her day in court. And I think that's a really important data point. You know, as you see Trump and his supporters saying this is not the only case, right? I mean, anyone, and I think what is also so meaningful about this is that E. Jean is a woman his own age, right? Who actually, you know, in this very misogynistic world that Donald Trump inhabits, older women tend not to be taken seriously, tend not to have their day. And here's a case where that really did happen. And E. Jean really did stand up for women, for victims, and for older women.
Eugene, I want to turn this to you. So, look, I don't think there's much that changes how voters feel about either of the candidates right now, whether that's going to be Joe Biden or Donald Trump. But we have seen polling in the last week and a half of people saying, well, hey, if Donald Trump gets convicted, that will have some impact on my vote. Do you think this conviction on something that everybody can understand, it's not complicated, it's not secrets, it's you harassed and defamed a woman, do you think this has an impact on any voters out there, even just independents?
Certainly right now. I mean, the reality is November is quite some time away. And you remember 2016, there were so many things that we thought would turn people off from Trump, and they would stay on, and they forgot about it by the time it was time to go to the polls. And so anything could happen. But what is happening right now is that voters are being reminded of who Trump is. Many people have forgotten. Many people have tuned out from the daily news consumption that they were engaging in 2016 and 2020. And these headlines don't serve Trump well. Right. And you see even other Republicans like Nikki Haley taking advantage of this opportunity.
So here's the thing. Dave, I want to take this back to you because when I look at this case, I think about it in the context of other major defamation suits, right? Now, this isn't Dominion money, right? This isn't Dominion and Fox. This is not what happened with Alex Jones. But it is a large amount of money. How would Trump even begin to try to pay for something like this? Is this something that's going to be sort of spread out into monthly payments? Does he have to make a large sort of chunk payment one way or another? How does this process move forward after this verdict?
Within 30 days after the judgment, he's going to have to put up the money, the $83.3 million, into a bond to appeal it. I expect him to appeal, so he'll have to put the money aside. That protects E. Jean Carroll so that the assets just can't disappear at the end of the appeal. The big question for me is, when will he have to pay? I do think this will be held up on appeal. I just don't know when it's going to go to E. Jean Carroll. And then he has the other massive lawsuit that he's facing from Tish James in New York. That's going to really hurt his liquidity. So we'll see. And to put this lawsuit in perspective, think about it like this. The first defamation case, which was actually his second time being sued for defaming E. Jean Carroll, led to a $5 million verdict. This is $83.3 million. This was a massive judgment.
Molly, there's an argument out there sort of in the Trump ecosystem that, oh, this is fine, right? Every time he gets in trouble, it makes people more excited about him, that his whole strategy is to basically turn himself into this sort of John Dillinger, the man is after me, but I'm still going to stand up for you. Do you think that getting convicted of harassing and abusing a woman, do you think that in any shape, way, or form plays out well for him amongst voters, even with his base? Or do you think they'll ignore it?
Well, I mean, this is Trump's calculus, right? He believes that the base, and so far the base has liked these indictments. They have felt that he is their guy. But again, Trump's problem is not with his base, right? Trump's problem is growing the electorate. And I just am not convinced that having this guy in court, and remember, this is just the beginning of his legal problems. He is facing 91 criminal counts. These are just the civil cases. I mean, I just don't think that defendant Trump is the same as candidate Trump, and I think they have very different needs and very different strategies. And I think that Trump is really committed to being defendant Trump, and I think that's really going to hurt candidate Trump.
Eugene, part of what we're looking at here is what was, at least in my memory, the party of law and order basically saying, hey, law and order doesn't matter as long as I'm really committed to what I believe. I want to play you some video right now of a debate in the new district that Lauren Boebert is running in, District 4 in Colorado, and how that audience of primary voters, Republican primary voters, responds to these ideas in law and order. Get your thoughts on the other side.
Have you ever been arrested?
Do we get this?
Now, look, if it's a music lyric saying I've never been arrested for nothing domestic, that sounds great, right? But if you're running for office, right, it would seem to me that that would be a problem. Or even if you're saying, hey, I've been arrested because I was protesting, I was a pro-life protester or something else like that. What does it mean that just raising your hand and saying I've been arrested gets cheers, the loudest cheers during a debate for office?
Well, it's important to pay attention to who it gets cheers from. Mm-hmm. So I remember covering the midterm elections after January 26th. And if you can recall, so many GOP candidates were pretty extreme and boasting about things that in previous elections we would have thought would have disqualified people. Very few of those individuals actually got out of the primary. Mm-hmm. And if they did get out of the primary, they certainly didn't win in the general election. So while, being arrested may be popular with that crowd, it's not going to be popular with most voters in the district based on what we have seen. And I expect that to be the case in November as well.